When I need help, I turn to Pema, and I spent her birthday month in 2023 with her online, and I'm going to share this with you. And I hope you get as much out of it as I do. One of my highlights of my life, which will be a part of my highlight reel, was when I traveled to the Cabot Trail to see her home in 2017. Thanks to a very kind human who was also suffering just like me. Together, I wish you all deep, deep inner peace. Be mindful that our thoughts create our anxiety and our depression. They can also create the calm and the peace. May you be safe, may you be peaceful, and may you heal with ease. You are love, and you are peace. Ciao for now. I hope you enjoy this. Please share in the comments what was your greatest takeaway from listening to Pema today.
I think if you were to, go around, ask everybody, before in this talk or online, just say, what advice would you give for transforming adversity into the path of awakening? Probably the answer would not be grateful to everyone. But I see this as another way of saying soften what's rigid in your heart. Live your life in a way that brings down barriers instead of puts them up. Work with difficulty in a way that's sowing seeds for the future. According to the teachings on karma, wherever we find ourselves right now, globally or all of us together or individually, is the result of all the seeds that have been sown up until now. And that includes our outer circumstances, the people we encounter, the things that are happening. And it includes, I think, very importantly, our state of mind is a result of all the seeds we've sown up until now. So the question here, and the reason that be grateful, feel gratitude for everyone, is relevant is because it's sowing the right seeds for tomorrow and next year, 5 years from now, for forever, actually. Near future, distant future. And we could have a conversation about the United States and how it got in this mess, if that's how you look at it. Not everybody looks at it that way, but if that's how you look at it, or even if that's not how you look at it, how we got to the place we got now is a result of a lot of seeds that have been sown up until now. So what about the future? What kind of future are we creating for ourselves, for our children, for the next generations? And I'm assuming here that, and you might want to question me on this, but I'm assuming that you, well, maybe I shouldn't assume anything, but let's say where I'm coming from is that there's the interdependence between the state of mind of many, many, many people and the outer circumstances is undeniable. Like they say, as it takes many drops to fill a bucket, drop, 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 even a very big bucket eventually will be filled. In the same way, it takes a lot of human beings to create the situation in which we find ourselves. You are important, you know, in this whole equation. You are part of a whole, and we all are. What we do affects other people, and what they do affects us. And this goes, of course, very clearly with those who are in your intimate circle, the people you live with, your friends and family, as we say. But it also goes out very wide. That what individuals do, I mean, for instance, if you are committed to holding a grudge against somebody, then that affects you. Like if you want to be happy, drop that grudge, which is easier said than done. But also that kind of tight, or I said softening what's rigid in the mind, that kind of rigidity of the mind when we hold a grudge, it's just like a tight fist, you know, instead of a open hand that can receive. It can't receive anything. We can't receive anything. So I just use that as one example of kind of succumbing to negativity, succumbing to aggressive attitudes, succumbing to just basically widening the gap between us and other people instead of bringing us closer. So I'd like to talk a little bit more in detail about this slogan, be grateful to everyone. As an instruction for how to work with difficult times. So first of all, the word gratitude. Be grateful to everyone, or meditate. Gotta find it here. Meditate upon gratitude for all. So this feeling of gratitude let's talk about the feel-good column. It goes in the feel-good column. Gratitude feels good. When you feel gratitude towards somebody, it falls in the same column as like tenderness, love, compassion, caring, empathy, kindness. There's a lot of things in that column, but all of them are things that bring us more together. That when you feel gratitude towards something or someone, or just, because you feel gratitude for the day, that it's a beautiful day. I'm grateful that it's not raining because you can't hear anything in this tent when it's raining. I had a good night's sleep. I'm grateful for that. I've lived 88 years in good health. I'm grateful for that. So it's not... So it's... And gratitude towards... I do something called gratitude practice. I actually have a mala, like beads, and in the morning, as part of my practice, I I go through those beads, and with every bead, it's something I'm grateful for. So usually it starts off with people I'm grateful for. And someone said you can do 21, you can do a number, but I find 21 is definitely not enough. Even when I said don't have a lot of time, once I get going, there's so many people that I'm grateful to. And I do this for a while, and all I can say is it sort of warms me up for the day. It definitely softens what's rigid in my heart. And say I'm holding worry or fear, anxiety, it really helps to do this gratitude practice. But whether you do it as a practice or not, just when you notice that you're grateful for something, that you appreciate something, that you're glad that something is happening, really, really, I say soak it for all it's worth, you know, like notice it. Notice that and let yourself feel it. Now, there's also a practice of acknowledging when you say feel gratitude, that whole column of tenderness and love, etc. And then just sort of close your eyes and see what it feels like in your body. And it feels very relaxed. I mean, everyone has to do it for themselves when one of those feelings is up. Sometimes we even have whole mornings of feeling like that. Go around whistling or something. I just was staying with my daughter, and I always know she's having a good day because she starts walking around the house whistling. So sometimes we have extended periods, and so if you notice, if you just take it as something interesting to do, just notice how it's affecting you physically. Everything is very relaxed. That's my experience. You should try it. I hope you get an opportunity very soon. But there's this other column. And then that column has, that's the I don't like column. Or I wish this wasn't happening column. Or you could say, you could label it aggression column. Self-aggression, aggression towards others. But it's all the hard-hearted feelings. Which come involuntarily. It's not like you sit around and say, I'm going to work myself up into a rage. That would make my day. I'm just going to work myself up. I'm feeling pretty good now, but I'm determined to get jealous. In other words, you want to wreck the whole thing, right? So very interesting, from the most dramatic, like rage, to the most subtle, like irritation. You know, try with just irritation. Very interesting to go to the body and see what that feels like. And it feels constricted, tense. It can actually hurt depending on how intense the negative emotions are, and how intense the storylines are. You know, that just they say kerosene for the fire. The storylines are the things we're saying to ourselves. Kerosene for the fire. So instead of that column, which, okay, so I'd like to ask you, if we're talking about wanting to be happy, or you might use feel a sense of well-being, or you might say stress-free, or whatever word works for you, like why you might meditate, for instance. What's your motivation? Or why you might come to a talk like this. What's your motivation? Like wanting to, I'm sure it's not wanting to feel bad. I'd like to leave here feeling a lot worse than when I came. I hear if you go to one of her talks, it's a great place to go if you just want to ruin your day. So which column makes us happier? Which column is more the way we want to feel of those two columns? I guess I don't need a show of hands. So this is just working with one word of this advice for how to transform difficulties into the path of awakening. How to awaken the heart, how to bring down the barriers, as I'm saying. Lessen the sense of isolation. And so I'm proposing gratitude and the whole, and its brethren and sisterin. Well, the whole family, the whole extended family of gratitude. Often referred to as warmth. Warmth. And Ziga Khanchen Rinpoche uses the word tenderness a lot. I love that word. Preferable to the word love, for instance, which is so loaded. But tenderness, I don't know, easy to access, and it says a lot about how you actually feel. So, but then we get to the challenging part. And the challenging part is everyone. Be grateful to your dog. Pretty easy. Be grateful to your most beloved person in your life. Be grateful to all the people that have helped you. It's a very good place to start. My gratitude practice, that's usually what ignites the whole warmth. It's said in the Buddhist teachings that all of us, all living beings, have awakened nature, called Buddha nature, but some people feel that's too Buddhist. But what if this does sound a little Buddhist, doesn't it? But what it's pointing at is have the actual same potential as all those that are completely awake, completely part of their life, integrated into the whole of life, contented, and most of all, actually, get their joy from bringing benefit to other people. So it ignites it to begin to, it ignites that whole potential. Let's say if our potential is that great, that each and every one of every sentient being could attain enlightenment, or whatever language you use. Let's just start, could be free of suffering. There's a good entrance. That's the entrance that the Buddha himself used. He found when he went around and talked about enlightenment, everyone said, "Nice to meet you, bye-bye." Because it didn't sort of relate to bringing adversity to the path. It didn't relate to the pain of individual lives. So he changed his focus, and the focus was, it talked about suffering and freedom from suffering. And people got interested and came to his talks, so to speak. So it ignites it to just be grateful to the people that you care about and that have helped you. But this says everyone, which is such a large category. Such a vast, actually inconceivable category. So before going any further, I'd like to take some questions.
And I think trying to combat all negative emotions with absolute bodhicitta and negative states with absolute bodhicitta, there's the danger of falling into what Trungpa Rinpoche would call spiritual materialism, I think. And then with relative bodhicitta, if you only use that, there's like this kind of feeling of fighting an uphill battle. And so I wanted to ask, what's your experience in integrating both of those in this dealing with or practicing with challenges?
Practicing with challenges.
Or just practicing in general, you know. Yeah.
Well, let's keep on the topic of difficulties and challenges, which you say. So somehow they always are married, they always do go together and are not lopsided. So suppose you're doing more easy access for most people is what I've been talking about, tenderness and kindness and gratitude. That would be more in the relative bodhicitta column. But along with that is a mind that doesn't get caught in bias and prejudice and fixated on bad or good, you know, like a mind that is polarized in one way or another, biased mind. So the tenderness, this is why the teachings say everybody includes relative and absolute bodhicitta, because everyone is very vast. And if you're actually a person who feels gratitude towards everybody, your mind is not ever caught in bias. Or I'm thinking of absolute bodhicitta in this very practical way as a mind free from bias, a mind that doesn't grasp and fixate and close down, a mind that is free of that, which is so vast. So the word everybody points at that vastness. Do you see what I'm saying? So in other words, it goes together because it's not just tenderness, it's unconditional tenderness towards everybody. So first of all, unconditional is pointing more in the absolute. And everybody is also pointing towards the absolute. It's kind of, everybody is a absolute and relative together word, you know, if that makes sense. Because relative in the sense of we're developing gratitude, our relative qualities of warmth of the heart, and absolute in the sense that it's unconditional. There's no conditions, there's no biases, there's no prejudices. Do you want to ask more?
I think that makes sense. Yeah, and no, yeah, that makes sense.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think so. And
can you say it back to me, what I just said? In your own words?
Yeah, the kind of like what we would call relative bodhicitta would be 4 measurables, and within that there's the equanimity. And so in that recognition of the equanimity, there's this recognition of the nature to some extent. And so that would be the unconditional or everybody, and sort of lack of separation.
Right.
And it creates kind of an inability for arrogance and anger and
Right.
things like that.
That's right.
And then in that kind of simultaneously, there's the love and compassion and tenderness.
Right.
So there's like inseparable, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just challenging.
Then it just gets down to it being so challenging. Absolutely, right. I'm afraid today you're going to be left with a challenge rather than removing it, you know. So I'm going to stand up to see the hands. Okay, there's a woman way over there. I'm pointing at her. She's over here. Shake your head. That's it. That's good. To stand up. She's now standing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I work a lot with people who are on the pretty intense end of the spectrum of difficulty, people living on the streets of Denver and people with really intense trauma. And I imagine a lot of people in this room have also had an experience of being at the depths of the ocean and having no idea how to even begin to access a seed of gratitude.
Right.
And I'm wondering, where do we start? Where do we begin? How do we instill hope in the hearts of beings and maybe moments in our own lives where it feels really, really impossible to believe in a more beautiful world or a more beautiful reality? Where can we begin?
Okay, so can I ask you some questions?
Sure.
Yeah. So, how do you feel about the individuals you work with? Let's just say individual by individual. How do they make you feel, or what's your attitude towards them?
Tenderness, and a lot shifted for me when my brother experienced living on the streets and having schizophrenia and feeling like that's just one sibling away from me.
Right.
And so I feel a sense of connection, compassion, and also sometimes the isolation with it of how is no one paying attention. I feel some like rage and activation in that sense as well. But care, hope, sadness, some days hopelessness as well.
Sure. Okay, so good. So there's this expression about how to work with things like what you're describing, where there is a lot of love and compassion, but the situation is overwhelming. I mean, it's like, it's almost on the scale at a relative level of all sentient beings, like saving all sentient beings. It's like so big, the homeless situation, the number of people living on the streets. And so how can I make a difference to such a thing? Or is there any way to make a difference? Or is there any hope for these people? So there's two things I want to say. The one is, why don't you keep standing so I can see you, if you don't mind. We reversed roles, and you're standing, I'm sitting.
Happy to stand for you, Pam.
So one of the things I want to say is, in the lives of many of those people, not all, but in the lives of many of those people, somebody caring about them makes a difference. They may live their whole life on the street. They may die of an overdose or violence or something sad. But you've made a difference by caring about them, one-on-one, one person at a time. And that was Mother Teresa's message, you know. Just think of her, and all what she set out to do, and she got a lot of people that were on board with her, her Sisters of Mercy, was to take people in destitute situations, dying on the streets of India. Nobody cared at all. Stepping over them like nobody cared. And her intention was single-pointed: die with somebody caring about you. So wonderful, really heartfelt. But she did it on a large scale. But so you do it, that's your work, you know, one by one, each person. And you wish that would add up to no homelessness, or you wish that would add up to more people caring, or you wish that would hand up into the government helping. But whether that happens or not, that's the place you come from. And of course, sometimes you feel hopeless, but you know, hopeless, if it doesn't have a storyline, is a very tender feeling. Brings tears to your eyes. And I have a friend who's in a very, very difficult situation, and he says he practices staying in the middle, not going to hope that it's all going to get better, and not going to fear that there's no solution ever, I'm doomed, or the situation in your case is doomed. He just stays in the middle. That's his practice. And so that's the open mind, you know, the open heart, that takes a lot of courage to stay in the middle, because the addiction that we're talking about, the habitual tendency, is to either go to looking away and not, and just trying to get away from it with some kind of pleasure situation, or getting caught in hope. Oh, we're going to get this government grant. Oh, look, we did this big fundraising and all these people are on board. Well, it goes up and down. And so, so that's one addiction, is to hope, and the other addiction is to fear or hopelessness, you know. So the practice takes a lot of courage, but you have a lot of courage. You wouldn't be doing that work if you didn't. And it's to stay in the middle.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah. Oh, okay, some online questions. You're going to read them out loud? I'll take two.
This is a question from Byron. How do we notice the hook without having too strong of determination that feels perfectionistic to smooth it all over and not feel it, and that becoming another cycle of suffering? How do we get out of the loop and settle without getting too heavy-handed?
See, these questions are so good, right? That strong determination sounds, that's the answer. And then Byron says, well, what about when strong determination becomes perfectionism? We human beings are very slippery. Doesn't matter what good advice we get, we can somehow, you know, turn it into the cause of suffering. But we also have such good hearts, and we can turn it into the cause of happiness too. So in terms of Byron, hi Byron, the camera is right there. Well, first you see that you're doing that. Acknowledgement is always the first step, you know, acknowledging that you're stuck. Like Atisha acknowledged that he had a lot of anger, irritation, judgmentalness. That was his starting place. And then he had strong determination to develop patience. And let's just say he was like Byron, and then he wanted to make that into perfectionism, that it just had to be perfect strong determination. Well, ladies and gentlemen, life will knock you off that pedestal. You can be as strong perfectionist as you like, but to try to get life to be perfect, you can't. And to try to get yourself to be perfect, which means not being human, actually, you can't. You can have that as a habitual tendency, but to try to be perfectionist about acknowledging, having strong determination to not go down, be hooked by the habitual pattern, it will humble you greatly. Your strong determination, your perfectionist strong determination will humble you tremendously because it's very hard to get it right. You know, failure is a big doorway, actually, to waking up. It's like, it's not, success and failure are extreme views. And we're talking more about staying in the middle, like openness to whatever might arise. So what, Byron, I guess to answer the question is, if it does answer the question, I think if you have strong determination and you come at it from a perfectionist point of view, because that's your habitual pattern. And so first of all, acknowledge that that's your habitual pattern, which sounds like you already are, unless you're talking about someone else. And then try it. Try to be perfectionist about about never biting the hook. Good luck, you know. So I just made a little allusion there to failure. Like, don't get discouraged when you keep biting the hook. Just have the strong determination that you keep starting fresh. And every time you start fresh, you're undermining that habitual tendency, even if it doesn't seem like you are. You are undermining it. Every time you just try again. Perfectionist or not, you know? And so that's the attitude, is just, Trump, Zigar Khanchen Rinpoche was saying, you weather the storm. It's like sometimes it's raining and sometimes it's sunny. Trungpa Rinpoche used to say, there is no cure for up and down. There is no cure for the fact that sometimes you bite the hook and sometimes you don't. It's just, life's like that, you know. Sometimes it's challenging and difficult, even in a given day, even in a given hour, you know. Caught in anger, and then some bird catches your attention, and you feel joy at the way it sounds or how it looks or something like that. So I don't know, Byron, if I answered your question, but thank you very much for asking.
Okay. This question is from Neet Chapa. How could we practice the Lojong Slogan 3 if, in the case that we often have low self-esteem or low self-worth, and yet we want to let go of ego clinging?
So this 3 that he refers to is this whole category of transforming adversity into the path of enlightenment. And his question is, would you say it again, please? Or her question, I'm not sure.
Sure. How do we practice that if we often have low self-esteem, low self-worth, and yet we want to let go of ego clinging?
Right. Well, when I give a talk to 15 people or 1,000 people, I always assume that the majority have low self-esteem. And why do I assume that? It's based on personal experience. of getting lots and lots of letters and talking to lots and lots of people and reading books and all kinds of stuff. That as Western people, it's a very strong habitual pattern. And in terms of the question about wanting to get rid of ego clinging, interestingly enough, it's probably the strongest form of ego identity in the West is thinking badly about yourself. Strange, but true. In the East, apparently, it was making too big a deal about yourself, like cherishing yourself too much. In the West, it's like biggest form of ego or cause of suffering is low self-esteem. So how do you work with transforming adversity into the path of enlightenment or anything when you have low self-esteem? You, and now I'm getting into the how part of the question, the talk. You get in touch with the feeling of low self-esteem. It's a feeling. It breeds storylines that keep it alive and well, but it is a strong feeling. And if you go down deeper, 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 usually rock bottom is there's something fundamentally wrong with me. So contact the feeling of unloved, contact the feeling of unlovable, contact the feeling of not okay, and extend warmth towards that. Soni Rinpoche calls it being okay with not being okay. Some kind of warmth, some we call bodhicitta toward our difficult feelings, and particularly this maybe most fundamental one, which is feeling there's something wrong with us, that we're lacking. That is a feeling, and it's not a good feeling. And it's a feeling you push away and don't want to feel. Basically, it is a horrible feeling. Well, don't push it away. Don't turn against it. Don't attack it. Don't condemn it. Turn toward it and extend warmth. So I'll just show this. Soni Rinpoche teaches this practice called handshake practice. Many of you may know this practice. So in this case, this hand would be the feeling of low self-esteem, the feeling of not being okay. And so that's the first thing, to really get in touch with that. As someone said, the horror of that. And this hand is unconditional kindness, unconditional warmth, and it keeps trying to soothe. And when Soni Rinpoche is teaching this, he says, and you bring the hand out, and it punches back. It doesn't want to be soothed. It wants to. It's a habitual pattern, so it wants to. It's me, after all. So you have strong determination to not give up on yourself, but in this case, this particular feeling. So you just keep trying to soothe, and it keeps fighting back, and you don't care. So who is this you that's doing this, if this is also you? Well, this is your wisdom, your Buddha nature, your ability to care and love, your ability to open your mind wider and wider. And this is your neurotic self. So rather than dividing yourself in half, let alone we divide ourselves from each other, just, So that's the approach. That's the how of this whole thing, is extending warmth toward these tenacious habitual patterns. And I think this one, thank you very much for the question, because this is a very fundamental one. And if you do not have this, you are very fortunate. So, thank you. So that's it too, yeah. So, but remind me, we'll take another one if we have time. All right, so where are we? We could take a question from you guys too. Are there any men who want to answer questions? What?
So, sorry. Hi.
It's funny, we have a column right in between us. Yeah.
We'll just bend over slightly. We've talked about how to practice with individuals, with ourselves, and with people that are annoying us. But how do we practice in adversarial positions that society puts us in? So what I mean by that is I have to work in public policy, for instance, and there are individuals who make decisions that through either lack of caring or through lack of, for a variety of reasons, I don't know, will cause suffering of other people.
Right.
Not only suffering of other people, but that suffering, I mean, we happen to be, I'm assuming most people here, of a level of our needs are being met in other that we can practice. But there are other people who aren't in that luxury.
Oh, yeah.
And will inevitably suffer and also not be able to focus on overcoming that suffering as a consequence of that.
That's right.
And then our entire system is driven towards an adversarial relationship. So, for instance, the legal system is putting me in, or groups in opposition to each other, striving for a variety of relationships.
Yes, right.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is, one, how do I practice not being angry at the other side while still actively trying to reduce the suffering in society?
Right.
In a role that I'm being forced to be oppositional in, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. So what I've been saying so far is it begins with yourself, right? And then, but let's just go to the context that you're talking about. And the advice for how to work with difficult times is be grateful to everyone. So you're saying, I'm supposed to be grateful to these people that are making these terrible decisions. I'm supposed to be grateful to people that are causing suffering for others. I'm supposed to be grateful for people that are causing the separation between us to be more. Right, that's the question, right?
And also how to continue to walk forward to make the world a better place,
Right.
while also not causing that self, right? I mean, it takes a toll.
Yes, of course it does, yeah.
To do that continuously.
To do the work you're doing, yeah.
Yeah.
To be in that gestalt, right? That atmosphere. Yeah, takes a toll. Have you ever thought of changing jobs?
No, because what I do does make the world a better place, I believe.
Okay.
And does reduce suffering. So
Right.
it does come at a personal cost,
Yeah.
but I truly believe that it is necessary. And I guess it's even like as somebody was saying, like the news, for instance.
Right.
We can ignore the news, but that's in some ways avoiding
Right.
the hooks. We're just ignoring
Right.
what's upsetting us.
Right.
That's not really dealing with the internal
That's
conflict. That's just avoiding it.
That's
and
right.
I see that as switching jobs would just be me
Avoiding.
avoiding
Right.
the reality that there are people suffering, and I'm not going to be able to. I mean, and as you pointed out, there's always going to be people suffering. I can't.
Yeah, okay. So let's just say, even though this sounds fatalistic, that there's no changing the corporate structure, the way lawyers work, and the environment in which you find yourself, trying to help people, but up against this. And doctors find themselves in that position. A lot of people who want to help find themselves in the teachers definitely find themselves in this. And so let's just say, just for the sake of being able to relax a little bit, give up hope of changing the whole thing. And so maybe, I don't know if the answer will satisfy, but I'm tempted to give the same answer I gave to the woman who's working with the homeless people, which is, well, first of all, with her, I said one person at a time. I imagine that could apply to you also. But also, what I was saying at the beginning of the talk in terms of view is what kinds of seeds are you sowing for the future in terms of the habitual patterns of anger and irritation. You're talking about a high-stakes environment that brings up these things all the time because it's like tough, right? Yeah. So I'm saying strong determination to sow the kind of seeds that you want to see in the world, that you want to see out there. Sow those kind of seeds. So maybe this advice that I was talking about, my friend, of staying in the middle, not getting caught in hope and not getting caught in fear. Hope would be the avoidance thing, you know, or whatever was chocolate and whatever it was. And so not getting caught in that extreme, not getting caught in the extreme of biting the hook. They're both biting the hook in different ways, right? And that becomes the meaning of your life. That becomes the priority in your life. That is what everything else, your relationships and everything revolves around. That's like the center of your mandala, is this strong determination to live by your values, the best of yourself. And that will mean, right, working with biting the hook again and again and again because it's so provocative. And then that will mean not getting discouraged and coming back, hard on yourself because, in the morning is strong determination. I'm not, it would be ridiculous to say I'm not going to bite the hook all day, but that I'm going to notice it and I'm not going to go too far down the, underwater. And you look back over your day and you say, oy vey, total failure. I never caught it once. So hip, hip, hooray, you have that mental compass of the morning and the evening. And and then the day humbles you. If you have any tendency towards arrogance, this will humble you. And if you have any tendency toward perfectionism, this will humble you. And if you have any tendency towards hopelessness, this will humble you, So it's not about getting it right. It's just about what direction, what's your moral compass and what are you going to live by?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So here's another man I can't resist. in the red shirt.
I just want to begin by expressing my gratitude to you. It's been,
Oh, thank you.
You've been a jewel in my life for a long time.
Oh, thank you.
So, in the context of working with difficult emotions, and this is not my question, but transforming anger into clear seeing as the fruition.
Right.
For me, a great source of adversity is my own attachment and the attachment of others, and which causes me great distress. And I'm wondering if you could speak to working with that and what the fruition or the transformation of that would look like.
Well, this word attachment in Tibetan is shempa. And some of you may have heard my teachings, which are based on Zigor Control teaching on shempa. I got that all from Zigor Control, and it really resonated with me, and then I started teaching it a lot. So I don't know if you have heard the teachings, but attachment and shempa are the same. So I guess I don't know exactly what the fruition would be in terms of like mirror-like wisdom or something like this. But but let's just say the fruition might be that you would be grateful to everyone. That might be a fruition statement for you or for all of us. So in the meantime, is it more the problem, or is it a mutual problem, your attachment, your shempa toward others, and other people's shempa towards you? Does it get into what Zigor Control calls lenchek, which is emotional entanglement?
Yeah, that is one of my specialties.
So, let's just start there. It's one of your specialties. So, that's really great. So, that means that's your doorway to enlightenment, because you know the territory so well. So, let's just say it's your doorway to feeling compassion for all the other people who are caught in emotional entanglement. In other words, I know what you're feeling like. I know what emotional entanglement is, says you, and I feel for everybody because it's very hard to get disentangled. So I think maybe sometimes it's impossible to get disentangled, except you begin to watch yourself biting the hook and getting disentangled and keeping the whole emotional entanglement going. With me, it's family members, you know. I go home every summer to visit family, and it's just uncanny. And literally, half an hour into the visit, it's like all entangled. They say this, I do that, and you know, I have all the answers. But sometimes I'm just like floored. I'm thinking, how is this happening, you know? So I think the strong intention thing really comes here, you know. So if one has the strong intention to get disentangled, which really is to not play your part in the dynamic, which then that becomes a koan of itself. How in the world what do I do to not play this game anymore? You don't know what the alternative is, right? It's so challenging and human, so human. You see it in sitcoms all the time. Not that I watch sitcoms, but I've heard about them.
Well, Lenchek is a kind of a sitcom.
Lenchek is a kind of sitcom. That's absolutely. Lenchek means it's this this attachment thing where you're so attached to someone, they're so attached to you, and you get all entangled, so it's hard to get out of the dynamic. But I think clear seeing of what's going on and strong determination to, like, just not say anything. What you try, you experiment. Okay, I'm going to experiment with not saying anything, and let's see where that goes. Why aren't you talking to me? I'm not saying anything. You know, I don't know. It's always challenging, right? But you just keep experimenting. And here's one that I love to work with. It is actually so beautiful. It's not exactly that it necessarily disentangles you, but it's going in the right direction, which is I stand there and I breathe in what I'm feeling, owning it completely, and I just send a lot of love and care to them and also to the whole situation between us. You just keep standing there. This requires not saying anything, right? But then when they say, why aren't, you always do that. You just stand there and don't say anything. Then somehow whatever comes out of my mouth comes from this good place, And and humor can come out of it, all kinds of stuff. As you say, Lenchek is a sitcom. This emotional entanglement, that's a good way to look at it. So, yeah. So right here, this woman, maybe stand up so they see, that's right.
Thanks. Thank you, Anipema. I am so honored and humbled to be in your presence. So my question is, I've been sitting for a long time, and sometimes because I'm one of those people with PTSD, and what I experience sometimes is like visceral bodily anxiety or other kinds of things that are really challenging, and they seem like no matter what my mind is doing, like my mind can be really calm, and my body is just still like freaking out. It's almost like an analogy would be like chronic pain. So I'm just wondering, because I've listened to like every talk you've ever done, and I've been like waiting to see if I could ever get a question in about this. Like,
Yeah.
in your experience, does meditation help with this sort of thing? I'm also getting treatment. It's not like I'm just trying to go at it with meditation. Like, yeah.
Well, PTSD is, you have to get help, right? You have to get help. Meditation alone wouldn't definitely not do it. So there's a lot of wonderful things that you can work with these days, right? And I really have strong aspirations that people find more and more ways to help people with PTSD, because it's just as you say, it's just, it's nothing that you can control, and your mind can be calm, and maybe not, but definitely it takes over the body. So the main thing I would say was definitely the most important thing is seeking the right help and support, including this psychedelic-assisted therapy. That's had some pretty good results, and maybe that's controversial. Nevertheless, I do know 2 people that it was very helpful for. And but meditation is part of the whole thing. It brings, first of all, a lot of self-awareness. And that there's a little more ability to be present for what's happening without getting drowned in it. Or you drowned in it, but then you still have some kind of a compassionate ability to know what's happening, to be aware and awake with what's happening. Then the component of compassion or warmth or kindness toward those feelings is very important. And then just letting the storyline go, how meditation trains in that, because that can make it more intense. There's the involuntary part that just happens as part of the trauma. And then there's the add-ons, the disaster scenarios and my life is ruined and whatever. So meditation helps with letting those go and dissolve into space again and again. It also gives you more access to space, to sky-like mind, that whole part of you that is not touched by this. So every time you sit in meditation, it can help you that way. And then I'd also suggest that when you're not formally sitting and meditating, and you're just walking around, and perhaps nothing is happening, there's not a flashback, the symptoms are not up, but whether they are or aren't, you just practice pausing, just stopping, and just like listening to whatever the sounds are around you, or somehow opening to your world with a kind of childlike curiosity. And that can be very helpful as part of your meditation practice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, here's another man. They're all there. I'm getting to lopsided in terms of my prejudice here.
Mine is kind of the build on what she was just talking about. People with chronic pain, and it might not be avoidable, and some days are good and some days are bad. I've found a toolbox helps, sometimes sitting with it, sometimes laughing at it, sometimes just dissociate as best I can. But yeah. What do you think can help with that and create that space? Because I've noticed space does help.
Space.
What kinds of things can help with that?
Yeah, space definitely helps. Gives it a bigger perspective, right? I deal with a fair amount of pain myself, probably not as extreme as yours. But so I would say, just for starters, what doesn't help is storylines. Like, let's just say there's a sharp, where is your main pain? If it's embarrassing to say,
no, it's full body neuropathy, migraines, headaches, it's joints, it's everything.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just say that that's happening. And let it just be raw, direct experience of that, which I know in that situation, you really do want to dissociate. You really do want to just zone out somehow, fall asleep, whatever, which I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. But I am saying that what really makes it worse by far are the storylines about it. So there's the direct pain itself, the migraine, the neuropathy, full body neuropathy. And then there's the storylines, the add-ons. So that is the cause of suffering. Let's just say there's something called necessary suffering and unnecessary suffering. So necessary is kind of an odd word, but what it means is kind of, it's what you got, the pains of life, whatever they are. Usually they say birth, old age, sickness, and death. So it's kind of the givens. So in your case, this is a given. Hopefully there's some way out of it, but often there isn't, right? So if with that as a given, that's called necessary suffering. It's like, okay, this is what I'm given in this lifetime, this is what I'm given, this is my path of awakening, this. And then there's unnecessary suffering with all the things you say to yourself about it. And that's really the hope and fear thing. Caught in hope that it will be better, fear that it will, hopelessness that it will never be better. So I'm suggesting, again, staying in the middle with the naked experience, as awful as it is, and no add-ons, because that definitely causes suffering. Then you say space helps. Space definitely helps. And so access to space is most readily available when one begins to meditate. Do you meditate at all?
Mm-hmm.
Do you find it helps?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I find myself feeling or saying to myself when it's more full body rather than one pointed is it's okay to feel like this.
Yeah.
And then also as far as storylines, just continuing to tell myself that I just want to be facing it in a way that I would be proud of. And sometimes that's the dissociation, and other times that's sitting with it raw.
Yeah. Right on. It's like your situation could serve as a vehicle for talking to other people in similar situation. And even if you don't get to talk to them, you can really deeply empathize with them. You know there's other people with migraines. You know there's other people with full body neuropathy. And you are in the same boat. Your sameness is very tangible and real to you. And so in terms of sowing seeds and awakening the heart, that can be your entry, right? Is like using the difficulty of your personal life, the karma of this life, using it to sow seeds of love and compassion and so forth. And what is it what you said? You said you say to yourself, this is just what's happening now? Or
It's okay to feel like this.
I think that storyline is very valuable. Yeah, that's a storyline that will help. That general attitude, relaxes. If anything's going to relax the whole situation, that's the kind of thing that will. It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, rather than feeling that, hey, I shouldn't be feeling like this, which causes that snowball effect. It's
definitely.
Let's just,
That's
it's okay
right.
to feel like this, including when you feel maybe too good. It's also, it's okay to feel like this.
That's right. You can even say to yourself, actually, this is better. Honesty never hurt. But this comes in the category of unfixable situations. Now, I'm not saying it's unfixable because I don't know your whole story, but we do have things in our lives, and we definitely have things in our joint karma that are unfixable. And so I began the talk by talking about 1936 and what was happening in the United States, what was happening, more pointedly, what was happening with fascism being on the rise in Europe. And so for a while, it was unfixable, especially if you were Jewish and you were living in that situation. For a while, it was unfixable. So there are situations, that's an extreme example, but there are a lot of situations in our lives where just because of the karma of our birth, it seems unfixable, but then that's your vehicle for awakening. No matter whether you've experienced prejudice all your life, or whether you've experienced discrimination all your life, or whether you've been in physical pain all your life, or whatever the difficulty is, that's the spirit about developing the strong determination is that's your working basis. That's your vehicle for attaining enlightenment. Not some better one that you would have gotten, later. And you're sowing the seeds now for your future and what that will look like.
Yeah, I kind of consider it just training with an emotional weighted vest.
Right. That's right. That's right. An emotional weighted vest. Yes. Well said. Okay, so where are we here? Well, we're almost at the end. And no, I think I'm going to close. Sorry. Is it a really good one? No. Okay, I'll take it and then I'll close. So we're getting an online question here.
This is from Nicole. As we work to avoid negativity and focus on gratitude, how do we resist the storylines but also keep from being taken advantage of?
Ooh. It's a complex topic, being taken advantage of. Well, maybe this is, I don't mean to be skirting the issue, because I think we all, many people work with this situation of not wanting to be a doormat. And sometimes hear teachings like this as they want me to be a doormat, or something along those lines. But I'm just going to bring it back to the original view that I presented, which is that let that a tendency for feeling taken advantage of, whether it's more psychological or more what's really happening in the dynamic of your life, or usually a combination of the two. There's usually a lot of low esteem in it, and people go for the people that they feel are weak. This happens with children, sadly. Maybe you were one of those children. And, but again, strong determination about the kind of seeds that you're going to sow. If this is the particular karma of your life that you continually, for as long as you can remember, feel taken advantage of, or left out, or whatever. There's patterns in our lives which it doesn't matter what it is. We work with it in the same way of like, okay, I want to work with this feeling of being taken advantage of, or if you insist people taking advantage of me, or the combination, I want to work with this, with sowing seeds for my future well-being and for the future well-being of the planet. For what is our society going to look like in 25 years, 20 years? What's it going to look like? Is it going to be the result of a lot of people avoiding and acting out and biting the hook? Or is it going to be, or is there going to be a major contribution of people that had the strong determination to awaken their heart of loving kindness? So it might seem very extreme to extend loving kindness, but that would include everyone. Be grateful to the people that take advantage of you. Woo, that sounds bad. But you might find that if what that felt like was not getting caught in a negative state of mind. What it might actually feel like to be grateful to them, like, okay, this person who's taking advantage of me is Ravi or Priscilla, whatever he or she's person's name is. And if you were a Tisha, you'd take this person with you to Tibet. I mean, that's kind of the attitude. And so it shifts it from someone that's taking advantage of you to somebody who is showing you where you have work to do. someone who's showing you where you have work to do, someone who's come unintentionally, but karmically they're in the movie of your life, and they have the ability to help you awaken your heart, or close your heart, for that matter. So the strong determination is making that choice, whether you succeed all the time or not. So disentangling yourself from the gestalt of always being taken advantage of. Not so easy to do, but doable. This somehow habitual patterns keep us stuck in the same reoccurring nightmare or whatever reoccurring story. And at some point, you take full responsibility for your side of it, and you have strong determination to sow seeds of loving kindness and tenderness and caring for people, and going towards open mind, an open mind towards all, and going towards an open heart towards all, and thinking of that as a fruition state, but you lead your life so you're moving in that direction. That's the direction you want to move in. And it includes a lot of failure, and so what? Okay with not being okay is a very helpful slogan. So being grateful to everyone, you have to make the teachings your own, which is to say, if you hear, be grateful to the people that take advantage of me, from one point of view, it's like saying insane. That's insane. That's insane. INSANE. But from another point of view, it's saying, okay, this is a chance to see my part of it and how I keep getting stuck in this dynamic. And I'm going to work with my side of it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work with my side of it. The people can keep coming and they can keep doing this, and I'll do everything I can to try to have that not happen, but I'm going to work with my state of mind around this. And I want to sow seeds that bring down the barriers between me and other people, instead of making the separation greater. So think of be grateful to everyone or meditate upon gratitude for all as a fruition statement, that someone who could be grateful to everyone or meditate on all with gratitude, but also as a path, as a practice you can do. And I think that's what I've tried to present today, is be grateful to everyone as a practice you can do to sow seeds that will create a better, will create a future that has more potential to bring out people's basic goodness, people's good side of people. So I think that's it. And so we'll say a closing chant, and I want to thank you all very, very much for coming. This is a fundraiser for MSB, so thank you so much for your contribution. And now we'll say the closing chant. And let me just say something here quickly. The closing chant is an aspiration. It says, as now as long as space endures. So that means forever. And as long as there are beings to be found, I guess that's forever also. May I continue, likewise to remain, to drive away the sorrows of the world. So that's the prayer.
And now as long as space endures, as long as there are beings to be found, may I continue likewise to remain, to drive away the sorrows of the world.